Right. I'm Dr. Joel Hunter. I'm the senior pastor of Northland, a church distributed in Orlando, Florida.
So, why are you here today with the Racial Reconciliation Project?
Well, I'm here for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm friends with Bishop Jakes, Bishop Jackson, others that are organizing this movement. But the other reason is because we are practicing in our own community this racial reconciliation networking. I'm from near Sanford, where the Trayvon Martin case was tried with George Zimmerman, and there was a group of pastors that came together, Sanford Pastors Connecting, black and white, linked with law enforcement officials and different government officials, so that we could build in our community the relationships to work out the justice issues we needed to work out. When that decision came down, there were no riots in Sanford because we were in that courtroom every day as faith leaders, and we had the relationships that prevented and stood against the damage that could have been done, especially from outside groups. And so, following that, we have met together. We've been meeting together. There are many churches in town, predominantly Anglo, that are partnering with predominantly African American congregations, and we are making sure that we have the relationships we need to do relational reconciliation, not just the idea, not just the big idea, but relational reconciliation. And what got it started for us this year was the movie Selma. A white congregation, black congregation came together to watch that movie. Since that movie, we've been meeting every few weeks. We've been meeting every few weeks in a group that has an equal number of blacks and whites, law enforcement, Board of Education people, public officials, but mainly church people. All of us. This is a faith-based group, and we figure it's our responsibility, because of what we believe, because we believe in Jesus Christ, to take the lead in our community when it comes to not only ongoing and further integration, but when it comes to response to incidents in our community that wouldn't blow up. And when it comes to issues such as reforming the justice system, reintegration from correctional facilities, we're working with 6 different prisons in our area, and so on and so forth. So that's why we're a part of this group. We want to hear what's going on nationally. We want to hear what other communities are doing, so we can be a part of a network, so that we can encourage others. But mainly, we're focused on our own community.
Do you think a similar coalition could have prevented what's happening in Baltimore right now?
I absolutely do. First of all, Baltimore and other communities were kind of caught flat-footed, and communities such as Ferguson did not have this kind of preventative step of already close relationships, integrated relationships with both faith leaders and the law enforcement officers and the public officials. And so, because we have had that, because we take a great pains to build that, then the chances of violence in our community much reduced. But when you have an incident such as happened in Baltimore, or when you have an incident that happened in Ferguson, if you don't already have that network or are building that network, the results are going to be much more catastrophic.
I imagine this process must have been difficult. I'm sure it wasn't, easy to come together from different congregations, different cultural settings.
Right.
How did you guys make it work, and what were some of the difficult parts that you had to overcome to make it work?
Well, it is different because in large part because of our natural social relationships, we're largely segregated. Not only because of our neighborhoods and because of our business relationships. Now, Florida's a little different because we really do have more and more integrated neighborhoods and so on and so forth. But for the most part, what was difficult, what were the preventative things, was that nobody was taking the initiative. Nobody feels qualified to take the initiative. So a couple of us just said, well, let's step up, let's give it a try. The second thing was this. Everybody feels ignorant when it comes to each other's communities, and we're afraid we're going to say something offensive or insensitive, and that's because we usually say something offensive and insensitive. So you got to get over that, and we admit right up front, hey, we're going to sound like, people who have no idea what we're talking about. But so let's just be gracious with one another. And then the third thing that is difficult is many times the black community is looking at what has been done and wants the white community to recognize the past, and the white community is way too ready to say, well, let the past be past. We're focusing on the future. So you've got to listen to each other, and the black community needs to say, you know what, I need you to hear what happened, but I'm ready to forgive. And the white community needs to say, I want to fix the future together, but I really do need to understand what you've been through. Because if this is about a relationship, this is about really knowing one another. So let's have this conversation. And let's feel like we're going to have the conversation whether we get things solved right away or not.
So how long did you say you have been involved with the racial reconciliation movement? And how many pastors are on board with this?
Right, great. Personally, I've been involved with racial reconciliation since being a part of the civil rights movement in the 60s. I came to Christ upon the occasion of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. being assassinated, because I was a part of that civil rights movement, and I came to a crisis of faith when he was assassinated, and that's when I made my commitment to Jesus Christ. So I've been doing this for a very long time, 50 years. But the community that I'm in just got serious about black and white pastors and other pastors coming together when the Trayvon Martin thing happened. And that's when we began to form our ongoing network. That network has waned since the trial has passed, and we have just kind of re-upped. A group of us have just re-upped. So in this group that we're meeting with, there are probably 20 or 30, but there are only a few pastors, and the rest are community officials and leaders in the community. Many of them are millennials, because they're not working at the same category as the older folks are. They just want to do the community good.
So what is the end game? Is it to keep meeting, or meeting in an intentional way, or meeting until it no longer has to be intentional, it becomes organic?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you've taken the progress. You have to be very intentional to make relationships with people you normally don't hang out with. So that's up to the church. That's part of what we got to call our congregations to. So you meet together because you have an agenda that you want to accomplish together. You want to make a better community. You want to make sure that everyone is getting equal treatment, and you want to form relationships together. Now that last one has to come at the end of continual meeting together, and pretty soon. And this is the way it happens within our churches. It just needs to happen between churches. Pretty soon, you don't have to have anything to meet together about. You just enjoy one another. Your kids have learned to love one another. You've learned to miss each other when you're not there. That's the ultimate goal.